There's nothing quite like the melody of a Howard Miller grandfather clock as it marks the hour. And as a proud new owner, you're probably eager to hear that melody in your home. But before you remove the clock from the box, sit down, relax, and watch this short setup video.
Hi, thanks for joining us. Today, Deb and I are going to show you how easy it is to assemble a Howard Miller grandfather clock.
In fact, it's so easy, you'll probably be able to do it faster than we do in the video, in less than 10 minutes. Our clock just arrived, so why don't we go in the living room and start setting it up?
Before we get started, here are some things to keep in mind. First, when your clock arrives at your home, check to make certain it wasn't damaged in transit. If you see damage, make sure you note it on the freight bill and have the carrier's agent sign it.
And if you notice damage after the shipper has left, notify them immediately and request an inspection and damage report in writing. Claims must be filed within a certain time in order to be honored by the shipper.
Check the carton for a product information label like this one. Record the numbers on this label in the space provided in your instruction manual. And while you're at it, attach your sales receipt to the manual for future reference. The label is typically on the shipping carton and on the back of the door, but it may also be found on the back or on top of the clock, inside the top back corner of the clock, or inside the clock above the back of the dial.
Now, once you've opened the box, check to make sure that all the components are included.
The parts you receive will depend on the type of movement you have. The clock we're about to set up has a cable movement, but some Howard Miller clocks feature chain-driven movements. If you purchased a chain-driven model, the chains are packed in a bag near the clock movement. We'll cover chain drive assembly points as we move along.
And now, I believe we're ready to start.
Make certain you're facing the correct side of the shipping carton. Then, carefully cut the bands. Open the carton and remove the box packed above the clock. Next, remove the long, narrow pendulum box located behind the clock and set this box off to the side. Now, carefully remove the clock cabinet from the shipping carton. Remove the plastic bag and place it out of reach of small children. Finally, remove the white foam box at the bottom of the carton. This box contains the weights, so it's quite heavy.
The foam box not only contains the weights, but the crank to wind the cable-driven clocks and the key to lock the door. Set this box aside with the pendulum box.
Carefully move the clock cabinet to a position close to its final location in your home, positioning it square and stable on the floor. As necessary, adjust the levelers at the bottom of the cabinet. You may need to make minor leveling adjustments later, but it's easier to do it now, before adding components.
Now that it's level, we can continue setting up the workings of the clock.
Right, and depending on the style, there are two ways to access the movement. Access cable-driven clocks through the top side panels. If you've purchased a chain-driven clock, you'll use the back access panel. Remove side access panels according to the instructions in your manual. They may be held in place with tape or plastic clips. Turn the clips down and out of the way for now. Lift the access panels out carefully and set them aside in a safe place. With the side access panels removed and the door open, you can now remove the cardboard sleeve that protects the chime rods during shipping. With a pair of scissors, carefully cut the rubber band that holds the sleeve in place. Don't pull on the rubber band to break it. Cut it. Now, through the front door, grasp the cardboard sleeve as indicated and slowly pull it straight down the chime rods until it drops free. Next, cut the rubber band that holds the foam pads inserted between the chime hammers and the chime rods. Again, cut, don't pull. And be careful not to bend the chime hammers. Make sure you remove the rubber bands and all the packing materials from the clock.
Remember, if you have a chain-driven clock, the chains are packed in a bag that you'll find near the clock movement. Pull the bag free and cut the string with the scissors, allowing the chains to hang. Then, Remove the retainer by sliding it down off the chains. And be careful not to pull the chains off the sprocket.
Finally, remove the spring clip from the back side of the movement by first pulling one end free. Then, close and lock the door. Now, it's time to move your new clock into its location as we've done here.
What about those foam blocks?
The manual says removing the blocks at this time could cause the cables to overlap and bind the movement. So it's critical that they stay in place during installation. We can take them off after the clock is set up and has been running for at least 12 hours.
Got it.
If your clock was supplied with a wall strap, install it now according to the accompanying instructions. Once the clock is in place, use the levelers to make final adjustments. Place a carpenter's level alongside the clock cabinet from front to back and side to side, adjusting the levelers until the clock cabinet rests level. If placed on carpeting, be sure to check the level from time to time as it settles into its new home.
The next step is hanging the pendulum. Remove the protective film first. Wear clean cotton gloves or use a soft cloth when handling the pendulum.
Locate the pendulum guide through the front door or one of the side or back access panels. While holding the guide with one hand, slip the pendulum in through the front door with your other hand. Place the pendulum hook over the pin or through the slot on the guide and lower the pendulum to hang it securely.
Now, it's time for the weights.
Hey, we're making great time.
Very funny.
When it's time to hang the weights, remove them carefully from the foam box, but don't remove the labels located on the bottom of each weight. As you view the clock from the front, the left weight controls the hour strike, the center weight controls the time, and the right weight controls the chime. Just remember, from left to right, strike, time, chime. The total weight of each is slightly different, so each weight must be installed in the correct location or the clock won't operate properly.
Check to make sure that each weight is assembled tightly and the cable is in the cable pulley. Then hang each weight on a pulley. Remember, do not remove the foam blocks. If you have a chain-driven clock movement, make certain that each chain is on the sprocket. Hang each weight on the solid hook at the end of the chain, not on the chain links.
Once the weights have been properly hung, you can move on to the moon dial if your clock has that feature. You need an almanac, a calendar, or a weather section of your daily newspaper.
Now to set the moon dial, apply slight pressure with your fingers to the front of the dial and rotate it clockwise until the moon is below the number 15. Now, if the moon won't move with gentle pressure, check the troubleshooting section of your instruction manual. Okay, when was the last full moon?
Let's see, 8 days ago.
Okay. Use your calendar, almanac, or newspaper to determine the date of the last full moon. Count the number of days, in this case 8, and turn the moon dial clockwise 1 click for each day past the full moon.
The dial is now set and will accurately indicate moon phase as long as the clock operates continuously. If the clock stops for more than 24 hours, the moon dial must be reset.
That was easy. Now what?
Well, it's time to set the clock. Want to do it?
Sure.
To set the time, move the minute hand counterclockwise until the hour and minute hand are at the correct time. Do not move the hour hand when setting the time. It will move automatically with the minute hand. As you move the minute hand counterclockwise, it's not necessary to wait for the clock to chime each quarter hour. The movement has a self-correcting feature which synchronizes the chimes with the time. If your clock doesn't chime properly after setting the time, let it operate a couple of hours and it should correct itself. Well, are we ready?
And let's see. And the clock is level, pendulum and weights are hung, we've set the moon dial and the time. Now we can start the clock. Would you like to do the honors?
Gladly. To start the clock, place your hand gently on the right side of the pendulum disc. Move the pendulum to the far left of the cabinet and release. It's important to give the pendulum a full swing when it's first starting up.
Nice work.
And that's how easy it is to set up a Howard Miller grandfather clock.
Wait a minute. There's more.
Really?
That's right. Remember what we said earlier? Use the instruction manual along with the video.
And in addition, the manual provides handy tips on different features and options.
And troubleshooting tips, too.
For example, suppose in a couple of days we notice that the clock is running 3 or 4 minutes too fast or too slow. What do?
Check the instruction manual.
Exactly. See this nut on the bottom of the pendulum bob? It's adjustable. Turn it clockwise or to the right to speed up the clock, or counterclockwise to the left to slow the clock. One turn of the nut equals about half a minute of time in a 24-hour day. It's all in the manual.
Along with lots of other information, like removing the side panels, using the automatic nighttime shutoff, or chime selection on models with the triple chime feature.
If you have trouble turning the moon dial, or the clock doesn't chime or strike, or the chimes have an odd tone, all the answers are in the manual.
There's even a phone number you can call for help as you set up your clock.
Are we done now?
Yep, that's about it.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, read that manual and call if you get stuck.